Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you everyone for coming and watching on TV. Back to my traditional, very short report. I just want to remind everybody that Saturday, May 7th is the big trash day. Also on May 5th, I'm going to present a proclamation. That's the National Day of Prayer. We're going to be at the Hermann Christian Church at 12 noon. It's about a half-hour long program. It's open to the public, anybody interested. That's all I have. Very short.
Well, I'm going to be brief as well because both Jesse and Tammy are here tonight to give reports. So I've been consumed with working on the new budget, and it's coming along. I'm finalizing some details on revenues and expenses, and I've started working on the estimated carryover balances. So I should meet the deadline of May 1. And you should have found in your mailboxes the third quarter financial progress report. If you have any questions regarding that, just let me know. I've attended several webinars in the last couple weeks regarding ARPA funds. That's the easiest way to say it. That's the federal name, the American Rescue Plan Act. When they talk about it on a state level, they call it the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. Same money. They have come up with, April 1, they developed what they're calling their final rule. And what it has done is it has for any entities receiving less than $10 million, it has simplified and streamlined the allocating and reporting process. And so I did my first report today, and it was very simple. So I was glad for that. This one was especially simple because we've earmarked our funds, but we haven't spent any yet. But even when we do have to report it in, it is a very simple process as opposed to how arduous it was going to be. We were going to have to upload all our bids and our contracts and our awards and invoices and checks. We don't have to do any of that, so it's going to be very simple. The engineering grant, we met that deadline of April 18th, so that is with the state as we speak, and we should know something in about a month. That again was for, it was an 80-20 engineering grant for the ballpark lift station. And various meetings, let's see, last week, MRPC and the quarterly TAC, the Transportation Committee meeting was held in conjunction with MRPC. And this week, tomorrow is the quarterly UAB meeting. There is a vacancy on that board. We're still looking for someone if you know of anyone who's interested. And Thursday night is a planning and zoning meeting. Maybe this would be a good time to note, we didn't have it nailed down before the agenda was posted, but due to Ash's wife serving on the park board, he can't replace Dave on that board. So Ash and Susan will be swapping for the Arts Council. So Susan will be moving to the Arts Council, and Ash will be going to the Arts Council and Susan to the park board. Do we need to make a motion later in the meeting to do that? So we'll tack that on the end, then I'll make a note of it and to remind you. And I think that is all I have.
Okay. Public Works Director report.
The gas department has been finishing up on their Line Street main, and the services are both done. So that project is final now. The contractors were supposed to be back in town today, which I didn't see them. They were supposed to be back in this week to work on the creek and finish that exposure where that happened earlier this month, or earlier last month, I guess. Water department just finished up the 8-inch main that they've been working on down Washington Street from 6th to 10th. They finished that up earlier, or late last week, I guess it was. They were waiting on a valve. That's where that pit was open for so long. There was some problems with supply issues there. It's now connected and live all the way from 6th to 10th, so everything's hooked up to that except for the old middle school. We've got to get the old main out of the way now to hook that one up, so that's moving along well. The CTOL booster, right now Flynn is waiting to get some parts. We've got a lot of the prep work ready to go, so hopefully as soon as all those parts and drives and stuff come in, we can get that rolling. Both the smaller pumps are in, so if the bigger pump isn't here as quick as they had hoped, we're just not going to worry about the high flow pump right away. We'll get the little one on. That's for the day-to-day use, and then the bigger pump is for fire suppression. On the sewer side, SAC Construction is they had their subcontractor in town doing camera work. Basically, they camera all the sewers, make sure if there's any breaks, collapses, anything like that. If there's roots, they take a grinder and run down the sewer and grind all that stuff out of the way, clean it up. Then they send that footage to SAC itself. They come in and review the footage and decide whether or not anything needs to be done before the cure-in-place pipe is done. So that's moving along. The sewer department's been keeping up on the lagoon UV system every single day. They're going down there checking the light bulbs, the ballasts, fusing, everything every day. We got our first DNR report for the recreational season, and it looked really good. So hopefully we can keep that trend going. It looks substantially better than any test we had last year. We went to Chamois in New Haven and looked at both of their UV systems. We had a lot of trouble with ours. The maintenance on ours is extremely expensive. Both of these systems seem to have their pros and cons like anything would, but they seem to be lower maintenance. So it's something to think about in the future. The electric department's been working on right-of-way maintenance and assisting the parks in removal of trees in the lower park as well as the riverfront. There are several services in town being upgraded, businesses, residences, everything, across the board. So we've been spending a good amount of time working with contractors on that. Work is continuing on the park lighting as time and weather allow. We kind of put that off last week with the trees that we removed at the park. Wasn't much sense in putting brand new lights up and worrying about dropping a tree on them. We'll hopefully be pulling wire in CTOL later this week or early next week. That job's been slated a couple times already, but between the weather and other pop-up stuff, it just keeps getting pushed back. Streets, the mowing has begun for the season. The guys are trying to work around the rain, which it's at that time of year. Keep everything looking nice. Street sweeping started, so just a reminder, if you're on a street sweeping route, keep your car moved on the days that they're supposed to come through. If anybody wants mulch, here's a giant pile of double ground, tub ground mulch. It's good mulch. You can go down and load it yourself at any time at the city's compost site, or if you want to load it on a trailer or something, you can contact City Hall and they'll get with Todd. They do that on Thursdays. They load for you. They've been patching potholes, and Todd's been working with the engineer a lot for the Washington Street project that's getting ready to start. This is where I get to put on my bad guy hat. So we're working on what's going to happen next year now, already. And one of the projects that we're going to be working on is the 200 block of East 4th. And as we do this, and we're going to run into this a lot in town, and we ran into it already this year, we've got 4 trees on that 200 block of East 4th. We've got 2 giant lindens that I would hate to guess how old they are, and we've got 2 sugar maples. And they're in the sidewalk yard between the sidewalk and the gutter. They've heaved up the sidewalk, they've blown out the gutter, and basically they're making it to where we're having our infrastructure destroyed. And part of what I see my job is making sure that if we're going to spend citizens' tax dollars on this stuff, we're doing it in an intelligent way, not a way where we're going to be replacing it 10 years from now. So it's a lot of problems with unsafe walking conditions. As far as like disabled use of the sidewalk would be almost impossible. So I believe we should remove these trees. I touched base with John Fleming, who is on the tree commission, He's a certified forester with over 4 years of experience. He looked at the trees and he completely agreed. He said they're not healthy trees, they're in decline, they've all been topped. But his recommendation was that if we move forward with removing trees in this area, and obviously if we can avoid it, he wants us to. But like in this area where it just makes sense to go ahead and remove these trees, the tree commission had talked and they would like to see if we could move the sidewalks to the curb. So basically eliminate that 2-foot patch of grass, and that'll give another 2 feet in the city's own property there where they can plant new trees. We don't have to worry about the same issues down the road. So it's a really good idea. It's more than likely going to cost a little bit more up front, but I think long term there's going to be a substantial savings to doing things that way. Everywhere that everybody wants to plant a tree is in that little space, and that's just, there's no good tree to plant there. We say it all the time, you got to put the right tree in the right place. You can have the right tree, but if it's in the wrong place, it creates problems. So just something for you guys to be thinking about. If you guys see that down the road as a good way to spend city funds as far as moving sidewalks out. Like I say, there's portions of sidewalks that we hadn't necessarily planned on replacing, that if we do this, we're going to have to replace those sections of sidewalk. Like I say, I think that it's a pretty small investment if you look at it long term. The Parks Department, they assisted us as we were assisting them with tree removals. These trees were already dying, were already dead. They were identified by the Tree Commission in their trim grant this year. Part of the Tree Commission's trim grant this year was also to plant 20 trees. Those were all planted last Friday, and they were planted throughout the park systems around town. So hats off to the Tree Commission for getting a whole lot more trees planted in town here. Right trees, right spot, thank you. And then the pool's being readied for the new season. Mowing and weed eating is in full swing, of course, and the campground has just been swamped. So all good problems. Sorry, that was long-winded, but I haven't been here in a while, so.
Question for you, those new lights you put on the west side of the swimming pool parking lot,
Yes.
the new ones,
Mm-hmm.
are they supposed to be on certain times?
They're dusk to dawn, so they come on and off with the sun.
I know some nights, they were on like Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night, they didn't come on at all. I didn't know if there was a timer or
No.
just set for the weekend.
No, there's no timer or anything. It should just be straight off of a photo
It looked nice.
Photo cell.
Really nice
So,
looking.
yeah, if they weren't on it all Sunday, I don't have a good explanation for that. I'd have to, they're all on 3 individual photo eyes too, so that'd be really strange. But I can look into it.
That just knows when I look out, I can see it basically in my backyard. I went, how come they didn't come on tonight?
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Anybody else?
All right.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Tourism and Economic Development Director's Report.
I gave all of you a 7-page report, but I'm not going to go over that word by word, just so you know. I just wanted to highlight a few things, and I'm going to go through the things that are highlighted in green if you want to follow along. Amtrak Service, we have great news. In May, Amtrak will offer a through train. It'll start in Chicago in the morning, go to Kansas City, and then go back to Chicago in the same day. So passengers will have a layover in St. Louis of just around 20 minutes in one direction and 40 minutes in the other, but passengers will not have to switch trains. And right now they have to switch trains and there's about a 2-hour layover. So we're really excited about this because our Google Analytics for visitherman.com show us month to month that Chicago is usually the #1 city that searches us. And so we've been targeting dollars to Chicago, and we hope that more Chicagoans will continue to come to Hermann. And the next on the list is the MORPAC Legislative Committee, and MORPAC stands for Missouri Rail Passengers Advisory Committee. This is a committee I've served on, and we meet quarterly, either via Zoom or in person. But we have a new legislative committee that started last year, and the House of Representatives, we've met with members of the House of Representatives, the Missouri Tourism Commission, Missouri Governor's Office, the Missouri Lieutenant Governor's Office, and the Missouri Transportation and Highways Commission. We were able to give them a presentation about MORPAC and the economic benefit of having Amtrak 4 stops a day rather than 2 stops a day. So the House of Representatives passed the addition of what we were asking of $2.3 million in MoDOT's FY23 budget for the second train to run all 12 months. So they had it in their budget to only run July through December. So we were fighting for January through June. So the House of Representatives passed it, and then last week the Senate Appropriations Committee recommended the same $2.3 million in the budget. And so now we await for full Senate approval and then wait for the last step is for the governor to sign it, hopefully by May 6th. So super exciting news and huge for our visitors and our businesses here in town and outside of town as well. The MORPAC Marketing Committee, we're a statewide marketing committee of all the stations along the Amtrak route, Missouri River Runner route. We are planning our first event, National Travel and Tourism Week is May 1 through 7. So many stations along the route are having events this year. And here is your unofficial, official invitation. Please come to the Amtrak station, everyone, citizens included, on Friday, May 6th, from about 11:45 till about 12:45. We're going to greet passengers going on the train and coming off the train, and we'll have goodie bags and refreshments, and we will be inviting city, county, and state officials to attend that as well. And we are trying to get the governor and the lieutenant governor, or the lieutenant governor, to attend one of the events along the path that week. So we'll see. Wouldn't that be fun? I don't have it highlighted in green, but number 3 there, the Missouri Humanities Council and Missouri Life magazine have teamed up to make the movie The Spirit of Discovery, Exploring Missouri's German Heritage. And the premiere of that movie is going to be Thursday night at Stonehill Winery. So if you are interested, there are tickets available yet for the German dinner and the film premiere, and Hermann has a huge presence in this film. So we're looking forward to seeing that marketed all over the United States and into other countries as well. You can flip the page, and we're gonna go to number 12. No, we're gonna do 11C. Janet Rogers and I are as part of our GROW project that we have in Hermann. Janet Rogers and I will meet next week to start spec sheets on available industrial properties that are within the city limits, and we will work to add those to hermanmo.com. Number 12, which is very, very exciting, we have a hotel chain that's prospecting Hermann. Cobblestone Hotels is the name of the chain, and they've approached Hermann as a potential city for one of their franchise hotels. Chris Hart visited Hermann, hosted by Boone Slick Regional Planning Commission in Missouri River Country about a month ago, and he returned to Hermann last week, met with several potential investors, and toured several potential building sites. And Tricia and I did a Zoom meeting with him in between those 2 meetings, and had put the sale on for Hermann and for several of our building sites that we have available. A feasibility study needs to be conducted by the city and potential collaborators. And if Cobblestone ends up building here, the cost of the feasibility study will be reimbursed by the franchisee LLC. So very exciting opportunity for us. We know we're ready. Anecdotally, we know we're ready. We know we're late for getting a hotel in Hermann. And I can tell you from the bus tour groups and from the meetings and events that we have potentially coming to Hermann, I think we will have no problem filling that during the weekend, on weekends as well. Moving to number 13, I want to give a little report about our tourism team. We have wonderful contractors and staff that make up the tourism team. It is not a team of one. Marketing contractor Jennifer Davis, you can see she's got so many projects going on. We are meeting at least twice a week to go over projects, and she's the one that's really doing our brand management and our marketing in many, many ways. So it's a couple of the big projects that we have. We're working on street banners for the downtown and some of the outerlying areas, which we're going to be working with Jesse and Todd on that. We've got open flags that we're working on for all of the businesses. We've got those ordered, and hopefully they'll be in before MyFest. And I just can't, we're gonna get lockers at the Amtrak station, which I know so many people will be excited about, and she's got digital ads out, print ads out, and we're working on a lot of videos, podcasts, influencers coming to Hermann, which means a blogger who has a following, and we will get stories out of those people, and lots of social media and lots of promotion. So we're very excited about everything she has going on, and I could not do this position without her assistance. I also couldn't do this position without our webmaster contractor, Mary Kunstman. She's been working very closely with Madden Media on the development of our new website, and she's been working with Simple View, which many people will refer to as Jackrabbit, which is our lodging page on our current website, to have continued enhancements and to keep information up to date for each business. And as lodging businesses sell or lodging businesses come on board, it keeps her quite busy in the hours that we allot her. We also have our e-newsletter contractor, Renewal, and she continues to get our e-newsletter out twice a month, and that subscription number continues to go up for us each month. Our tourism services assistants, Beth Cobb and Charlene Watson, down at the Amtrak station, they have really noticed either A, that tourism season has kicked off, or B, our wonderful sign up at the Missouri River Bridge pointing people to the Visitor Information Center. The last page of your report is the report that Beth does for me every month for the Visitor Information Center. And they're keeping good track of numbers of partners coming in, numbers of visitors coming in, and number of locals coming in also. What is not in that count is the number of ons and offs on the Amtrak. So we're not even tracking that. That's on a separate spreadsheet that I always have available as well. So kudos to them. They're doing a great job of keeping Hermann visitors informed of us. Beth has resigned, so we do have an opening. If anybody's interested, please get with me or Corey, and we would be happy to get you an application for that position. Number 17, our Visit Hermann partnerships. So this year we shifted to Visit Hermann partnership for 2022. And we are really excited that this partnership program is working. So you know all about it. It's for inside the city limits of businesses and organizations. We have 119 businesses and organizations that we're working with, and outside the city limits we have 9. Lodging businesses inside the city limits is 118, and outside the city limits we have 3 of those. So very excited about our partnership program and where we're at with that. Number 19, MyFest, May 20, 21, and 22. The MyFest committee has a new website, myfesthermann.org. So please look at that for all of the details of events of everything going on. They are working on, as a committee, their not-for-profit status, which has been submitted to the state of Missouri. So they will not show up in FY23 on the lodging budget. So kudos to them for working through that. Want to make special note that the parade will be on Saturday, the 21st at 2 o'clock instead of the traditional Sunday at 2 o'clock. And the route will go through Washington Street due to repairs, will not include Washington Street due to repairs. So staging will be in the Lower City Park. And then on that Sunday, in the Upper City Park at the bandstand, we'll be celebrating 70 years of the MyFest. So a really exciting local celebration. So everybody please come out and enjoy the MyFest of 70 years. Number 20, the Hermann Wine and Jazz Festival. This was an event that was started prior to me coming on board, but we are partnering with the Hermann Music Boosters to produce and promote this event. One of the things the Tourism Commission wants me to do is get out of the production of events and make it my job to promote those events. So we've committed to mentoring them for 2022 and 2023, and we're sponsoring up to $5,000 in sponsorship towards this event. It will be a fundraiser for them, and it'll be held Saturday, August 27th, so we're really excited about that. The visitor guide, I also gave you all copies of that. I sure hope you've seen it by now. It was delivered to us in February, and we will have an online version of it out soon. on our website, and I've had some wonderful volunteer students who have helped me distribute it, and I'm looking for another volunteer student or two because we need to get them out again. But a very, very special thank you to Mary Kunstman, Jennifer Davis, Renewal, and Matt Wilson for the production of this amazing marketing piece. When you put it up against other cities' marketing pieces, it really, really looks good. And I will tell you, I showed that train to every senator and every representative that I visited with, including the governor's office and the lieutenant governor's office when I was up there last week and 2 weeks ago. So they're very impressed with it, and I'm really excited. And of course, we're already working on the 2023 for back cover and front cover photos, and we'll get working on that. Free and earned media, Hermann will be featured in Madison Magazine, which is Madison, Wisconsin. We're especially excited about that because Madison, Wisconsin is only 2 hours from Chicago, and as we continue to work that Chicago market, it's an easy ride or not really bike ride, but a car ride or train ride. I think you can ride the train from Madison to Chicago, and more people are starting to bring their bikes on the train, and MoDOT is also, and Amtrak is launching new venture cars, which hopefully will be later this summer. They're tweaking some issues on it, but the current cars only hold 4 bicycles, but the new cars will hold the current cars hold 3 bicycles. The new cars will hold 4, but we can also get up to about 30 bikes on each train if we use the luggage cars. So MoDOT and Amtrak have worked really, really hard with us to help accommodate more bicycles. So we're really pushing also the Bike Kitty Ride Amtrak aspect of touring Hermann and touring Missouri. So we're really excited about that Madison Magazine ad. And of course we sent them train pictures. We will also be featured in AAA's Explorer magazine. This is all free media that we have just earned, and I'm very excited about that. The last thing that we're really excited about is, not the last thing, but the last thing that I'll mention to you tonight, we have potentially a national film that will feature Hermann. Hermann has been scouted by Elizabeth Snodderly, who's a film producer. She's looking for a Hallmark type town at Christmas time. So obviously we fit that bill. And if this comes to fruition, filming will take place in November and December. Elizabeth has had movies bought by Hallmark, Roku Channel, Lifetime, Netflix, UPTV, and more. She was in town Saturday, April 9th, and I took her to several attractions. And she is finishing up the storyline based on some things that she saw and liked in Hermann. And so we'll hopefully know more in May. And we're cautiously optimistic that she will select Hermann. And so stay tuned for more information on that. So you can see we've had a lot going on. I haven't reported to you, I think, since November, but lots of good things happening, and thanks to the whole tourism team, the ladies in the front office who helped me so much with so many of our things, and Tricia, Corey, everybody, thanks, and our tourism commission, who I can't say enough good things about, who have really helped this tourism industry in our town, and economic development overall, because you can see all of that, it's all economic development too. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Public comments, we have none. We'll move to ordinances.
So the first is bill number 2022-17 for first reading. An ordinance to approve a contract by and between the City of Hermann, Missouri and Asphalt Materials LLC for a CFR restorative seal project.
Any discussion?
This is
Ash,
something
you know what
new?
this is?
Yes. I did have one question though. In the ordinance, it refers to 8,300 square feet, and in the bid, it refers to 8,300 square yards. I just wanted to clarify that we are talking about square yards.
Yes.
Okay.
And we do this every year, right?
We try to. There's 2 different applications we've used this company for. One is
you guys can remember sometimes they do like almost a white rock dust coating. This is actually not that, it's a sealer that we're putting over newer asphalt. It kind of helps protect it going into the future.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve bill number 2022-17.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We need to read that the second time.
Bill number 2022-17 for second reading, an ordinance to approve a contract by and between the City of Hermann, Missouri and Asphalt Materials LLC for a CFR restorative seal project. And what I would do, Tricia, is just put one line through the word feet and write yard right above it on the signature copy.
Okay.
Okay. I have a motion for second reading.
I move to approve it for second reading with the amended yard from.
Motion's been made, do I have a second, please?
Second.
Motion's made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Next is bill number 2022-18 for first reading, an ordinance to approve an agreement by and between the City of Hermann, Missouri and KJ Understall Construction Company, Inc. for a street and stormwater improvements project.
Any questions? This is for the work curb and gutter on Washington Street. So you're aware of that.
This is our big project that we've been waiting to do. That's $707,000. So that's the sales tax, the 7-8 sales tax that we've accumulated, and that first tranche of ARPA funds. So everybody's been like, when are you going to do something with the streets?
Right.
This is that.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve bill 2022-18.
Motion made, second.
Second?
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We also need to read that the second time.
For second reading, bill number 2022-18, an ordinance to approve an agreement by and between the City of Hermann, Missouri and KJ Understall Construction Company, Inc. for a street and stormwater improvements project.
Have a motion to approve?
I move 2022-18, second read.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We will move to old business. We have no resolution. Old business is the draft ordinance on the food trucks. They're open for discussion. Everybody had an opportunity to look at
I think it sounded really pretty good. I did have a couple comments, of course, on the, it's just the language, and that's one of my particulars. It's on page 2 under item B, number 2, where it says, if the food truck has been inspected by Gasconade County. I think it should be the food truck must be inspected by Gasconade County. Heard last time we had Tom with Gasconade County here said that he wanted to inspect them. He would accept Franklin County because Franklin is more stricter than us, but in order to get a business license, they have to have the health inspection.
Right, and that was discussed at length. There's a distinction between food trucks and restaurants or other food facilities. Obviously, you got a restaurant maybe opening in 30 days, and you can see the progress, and it's gradual, and it's maybe even slow. And the inspector has an opportunity to get there and do the inspections. Whereas with a food truck, as the thing says, it includes food trucks at festivals. So you may have somebody roll in here with a food truck at 5 o'clock on Friday evening for the weekend and start to get set up. And I know the health department guy said that he's on call 24/7, but it may just be that he's not able to get there, say, before 6 o'clock, before the festival starts and the guy wants to open up. And so we're trying to work with people like that. And one of the additions to this says that they need to a good addition, I think, if I say so myself, was the addition of ensuring that the food truck has to comply with basically the state of Missouri food code. It has a whole chapter on mobile food preparers and providers and so on. And so I think that the inspector can get around, say, on my example, on that weekend and do the inspection, and if it doesn't pass, just shut it down. But anyway, that's why it was written like that.
I have a question on that then, on the regulations under A where it says the state's one. I prefer to go by the Gaston County guidelines because they're in our county. Our county has strict guidelines. I think we should go by theirs.
We say state and county?
The counties are the states, I do believe.
But the counties, I think, are more.
And in the handout that the gentleman handed out at the last thing, his handouts cited 19 CSR 20, that 1.025. And then when you read that Code of State Regulation, it refers to the Missouri Food Code Manual. And I meant to bring it tonight, but I forgot. But it's about this thing.
That's all?
It's no joke.
So, I mean, we can look into Gasconades and see, you know, what if it's more appropriate somehow. But
Or if there's something in there that is not in the states.
I know what you're saying, Jim, but I think there's gonna be a time and a place for everything. And I'm not sure they're gonna be able to inspect every one of these trucks rolling into town, but if we could maybe just show that they're putting effort into being willing to be inspected by Gaston County, and maybe getting their most recent county inspection from where they're coming, I think that's pretty reasonable.
I mean, I think it's flexible, but they need some type of health inspection.
So their home county?
Yeah, if they come, say, from Franklin, Tom said that he would honor that because they're stricter, but he really wouldn't accept anybody else's, that he would want to inspect them. And I realize, like David mentioned, there's gonna be some flaws there, but I'd rather be on the safe side to say they need an inspection than say if, because that big word if could say, well, we didn't get inspected. So if they don't get inspected, they don't get a license to operate. That's part of the requirement for the business license. They can come in and show, here, I was just inspected 6 months ago in Franklin County. Gaston County say honored, we'll get by and inspect them. We know when they're gonna be here, so that way they could have it. That's only part of that, but say is I think they, as well as any restaurant in or food handling business in town, they're required to have that.
If it's my understanding, the Missouri Food Code that was referenced, every county has that as its base, and every county builds upon that. But it would be, you know, if they had a Missouri inspection, it would be assumed that it passes this, you know, particular code. But I would like to see at least, you know, a Missouri county showing proof of inspection within the past calendar year.
Any other questions?
Okay, my other question is page 2B, that the food truck permit is $25. I thought we discussed making it more than that. Like Washington's is $500, which is a lot, but maybe making it $400 a year?
I said, is what I've seen out there, Susan said, Washington is 500. Union, I think it's just past one or working, it's $50 per day, or $150 for 6 months. I mean, and checked into that, they said, well, sometimes they don't get the sales tax. None's turned in, so they make the fee a little bit higher, thinking at least they'll get something out of it.
Well, the way this is written, we would get the sales tax, correct?
Well,
It would
there's
be
that
easier
one.
to track,
It's
right?
not easy to track sales tax for them. I mean, our local businesses, restaurants, they pay $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month in sales tax.
Correct.
but they're open every day.
We obviously get the state sales tax report, but depending on their value of sales, they may only be an annual reporter. And we don't know that, so
So
we
we
do
would
get
know
it
it for a year.
quarterly, but,
So with that, I was reading it to go along with what Susan's got there. In A, it says a business license. This records that a food truck permit shall be valid for 1 year, but they need to buy a business license. And then in B, it says a permit. Would you have to have both a permit as well as a business license?
Yes.
Okay, that's, since we used permit before, then the permit below it, I didn't know if that was, so they would have to, $32.50 for a business license plus the $25 food truck license.
and the business license does make them put their sales tax ID number on there, so that's something.
Is there any way to cross-reference the quarterly reports with sales tax, submittals to, businesses that do apply for the food truck permit?
Maybe, that's considered a confidential report, and there's only like 3 people in the office, I think the mayor's one of them, that can actually review it. So possibly.
One other thing I had mentioned down there, I mentioned it previously, it's on page 2, section G, or section 0.50, item number G, where it talks about the minimum of 4 feet of unobstructed sidewalk remaining open for pedestrian and wheelchair traffic. I think we should look at that since our other ordinances follow the ADA requirement of 5 foot. We should have that to be same across the page for all ordinances. Because I think it says ADA 5 foot unless otherwise changed by ADA. If they go wider, then is it required wider?
Yeah, we can just say as prescribed by the ADA.
So with the zoning districts, would it not be possible for them to operate under an R zone? Would they be able to get a conditional use permit to do it, or is that just
Well, it's up to you.
the way this is written? The way this is written.
The way this is written, they could not operate in a residential zone.
I think we talked about doing that they'd have to have a special use, have to work through on that.
Yeah, the special event application would be where you guys would make those exceptions. Like parks are actually R1.
Well, all of which are public property. Right?
Yes.
That the city owns.
Mhm.
And so, we could debate this, but the zoning ordinances don't really apply to the city and the city park and the city streets and city-owned lots where there's cell towers and things like that. So if it's a festival, then, yeah, that R1 restriction doesn't really apply.
Any other questions?
Oh, and then we kind of left Susan's comment hanging about the price. What my opinion is, if I was trying to justify that to a judge, I would say that if somebody wants the privilege of operating a food truck in the city, they come to the city, they fill out these applications. Our staff is required to spend time and resources and photocopies and things like that, and the city's entitled to recoup those costs. Maybe $25 isn't enough, but I think $400 or $500, in my opinion, is too high. I think we only charge $3 for a conditional use permit or a zoning change or board of adjustment, and those take my time and a court report. We lose money on those. And so to say, we're gonna charge $500 for one of these permits, I think we have a tough time justifying.
I personally agree with you. I don't think it's fair to tack that on to those. We don't tack it on to other entities that come to town, like musicians and so forth. So I mean, it's all up to you, but I'm totally against it. If you all don't have any more questions, I'm gonna,
I do.
okay.
Under L, food truck vendors shall not vend before 6 a.m. or after 1 a.m. I think we should change it to 7 and midnight.
What's your thinking?
6 a.m. is really early, and if you're, say, if you let them be in the park and people are camping, the noise. Noise is a big thing downtown too.
Well, I think we talked about that. I think Susan, you brought it up, I went along with it. The time was that we have the outdoor music under control, and that's to be shut off at 11. I know this is not music, but it's kind of a little bit of a curfew. And Bruce had mentioned too, he says if food trucks are at 9 o'clock in the morning, they're probably gonna be gone by that time at night.
I would think, but you never know.
But it's just on the outside of it, I've seen it happen, that you put it till 1, they're there until 1, and by that time you get a lot of inebriated people, it gets a little bit louder and wants to drink a little bit more.
Right.
So yeah, 7 to midnight. There again, like I said, the outdoor music need to cut off at 10:30 or 11. Should we keep it all in the same?
Well, I think the food trucks should go a little bit past when your music's done, because everybody's done, and all of a sudden, oh, I'm hungry, you know. The midnight doesn't bother me.
7 midnight's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, as I get older, I don't stay out that late anyway.
We had discussed one of the last times about the morning, the 6 a.m. And I think somebody in the audience had brought up the fact that a lot of these biking groups start really, really early, and there's not a lot of breakfast options for them, and that maybe that would be a really good place for food trucks to be useful, is for those very early
That's true.
morning
That's
groups.
true.
And
What
they
if
won't
we
be
did-
associated with music or, anything like that.
What if we did 6 to 11, 6 a.m. to, well, we had 11, but 6 a.m. to midnight.
Yeah, let's say midnight.
That's fair.
I agree with that.
There is certainly a market for food to be sold at a certain time in the evening, because after a certain point,
Yeah, 9 o'clock, everything's
yeah.
pretty well shut down, because, yeah. Okay, so you all in agreement with that, correct? Anything else?
Do we need to go back to the fee? Do we need to cut it back to like 200 a year? I mean, that's less than $1 a day.
What if there was also an option of paying quarterly? If someone's only planning on testing the waters, a quarterly fee might be more you can stomach that other than a yearly.
Only problem with doing it quarterly is gonna create more paperwork for the office.
What if they did, what if they wanted to come, but they thought, man, they're taking a chance. What if it was like $25 for a one-time fee, and then if they decide, hey, I want to go back, I did great there, then that 25 would be taken off of their $200 or whatever it is. Is that more paperwork?
Yeah. Got to keep a running total on all of them.
So what, Dave, you were referencing earlier, that, like what the lawyer said, that would be targeting, correct? That would be an unfair treatment of a food truck that's coming in and paying for a city business license. Is that what you were talking about earlier with the $25 fee and the reason?
That's a permit,
That's the
not the
permit.
business license.
Business license.
Well, the business license is $32.50, they're
Right.
getting that already, so now we're discussing the permit, which we had at 25, and now we're talking about 200. I think that could be seen as steep, and you were saying you don't really have, you have to justify that as that's
Well,
the cost to
how
file.
would we justify that?
Yeah.
Other than just
I mean, why do
being-
these other towns charge $400, $500, or $150?
Because they're saying they're not getting their sales tax.
I think if you put a food truck in Washington, you'd have to complain. Yeah, it's, and legal advice to sort of legislative, what you guys should do advice, there's sometimes a blurry line, but, I mean, we went through, lengthy cost of service analysis and litigation in a case we had about 10 years ago, and fees and the propriety of fees and how you set the fees and so forth. And we did hours and hours of research on if a court touched a paper for 5 minutes, you know, and that was how we got it upheld. And if we just say, I mean, let's make it 1,000, you know, whatever. But that's just my opinion. Would you ever get sued? Would you ever get challenged on it? I don't know. Probably.
Has
Yeah.
Washington ever been challenged or Union?
I don't think so.
I don't know if it's remotely applicable. Dave, maybe for you. Our vehicle for hire in our public transit, their charge, the business license is $32.50, and then their permit for that service is also $32.50.
Yeah, and a vehicle for hire is using city streets and city infrastructure arguably, and, yeah, so whatever you guys think.
I think though, if you get too high,
Yeah.
it's not right. 25, I don't know how much an employee hour, is it gonna take an hour, 2 hours to keep track, and then we have to file it to keep it on file. As Tricia just alluded to, maybe the permit for a food truck is equal to that of what a business license is, and therefore that's determined if we move our business license cost up down the road to $40, then that permit becomes $40. So it would keep rolling if we ever raise the price of the business license.
So, what's your pleasure then? So I'm going to let the Lampkins talk here in a minute, and you want to make a decision on that, or you let them speak?
Let's let them talk because
Okay,
they might
you can have the
different
floor.
things.
Well, I'll just speak on the fee real quick. You know, I was gonna say the same thing that Patricia said. I believe there's somewhat of a precedent set for a separate application for vehicle for hire, which is using public infrastructure for an additional $32.50 fee. All we're looking for is equality and same playing field. You know, we're not looking for a special advantage. We're looking to set up a business just like anybody else and pay the same fees as everybody else. $500 may not have been challenged in Washington, but it will be challenged in Hermann.
Okay.
We've got additional comments.
She's got a whole lot.
bonus comment.
She's got papers, she's got more comments.
I don't have that many papers or comments, but Jim touched a little, sorry, my name's Stacy. Jim touched a little bit about it, about one, to kind of maybe offset some of those fees that you are talking about with the city, is making one inclusive permit rather than the business license and the permit. I mean, I think they're both wonderful. But I mean, are they both needed? And I think Jordan spoke to you earlier that the vehicles for hire also have a business license and a permit, which I understand, but I just didn't know if they could be rolled into one to make it easier for you guys. But that was just my comment. For festivals, I didn't see it mentioned in here. Would a special event permit be required for food trucks as before if they have a business license? For example, my fest coming up. Will the food trucks need an additional special vendor permit if they're going to be operating within the city of Hermann if they have a business license?
They have to have a vendor space permit. I think the thing was, will they have to have a business license? If they're only coming in for a festival, our vendors don't have to have business licenses anymore, only if they're gonna be, in town more than just for a festival. Is that confusing?
So they can come in for a festival.
And get a vendor space permit. And no business license, just for a festival. this board changed that ordinance about a year and a half ago.
Okay, so as they have always been?
No, about a year and a half ago, everybody used to have to get a business license. There was a reduced fee for a special event business license. They've done away with that.
Okay.
But there is still the vendor space permit for festivals.
Right.
So for your example, for My Fest, somebody coming in just for My Fest, they need the vendor space permit. And then if we have this food truck ordinance, they need a food truck. And then somewhere in here I read that.
So they would need the vendor permit in addition,
Yes.
even if they already have a city business license?
Yes, that goes for everybody who participates in a festival, a designated city festival, which is My Fest and Oktoberfest week.
Okay, so everybody applies for all businesses?
Yes, everybody participating in.
Well, everybody who wants a
festival.
space, but the purpose of the vendor space permits is for the city to analyze who's going in what slot at the various places that are open around town, and that you don't have twice as many vendors as you do slots and things like that, right?
And that's, yes, it's a $10, just a $10 fee.
Okay. So
Okay.
those still continue?
A good example is Red Barn Antiques. They have the two shops, but they also set up at different things, and they have to get those permits.
Okay, that was just what I just need clarification on, thank you. In 670 .040, section 4. No. It talks about, well, that's not right. 670. Sorry, I'm all backwards here with this. It talked about the setup. You'll need the description of the outside of the truck.
Yeah, you were right.
Am I right? Am I just missing it?
Yeah. Number 4.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Description and color photo of how the food truck will be set up, including the exterior. So is that talking about the food truck setup or the setup on our property? Or any private property, I guess I should. So if the way we set up on our property changes, is that going to be exclusion? Or,
This is just the food truck itself, right?
so you need so if they change their truck color or change the exterior that has been submitted, they reapply?
I think the purpose is more for setup and do they have, I don't know, because the impetus or the spirit behind all this stuff is public health, safety, welfare. So color of the truck doesn't matter. But if they always have one of those standing gas heaters, you know, like right here, and that people can trip over. If they have chairs or tables here, like this far away from the food truck unit, I think it's just that kind of layout where the city would say.
Okay, I just don't want someone to come around and be like, oh, well, they didn't have
picture.
that logo on there, time to go. I can see that happening, so.
I don't see that.
Okay. 670.050, section D, says signs shall be confined to those attached, affixed, or applied to the food truck. I just was curious about sandwich boards, because a lot of other businesses have sandwich boards in front of their trucks, and a lot of trucks use those as their menu for the day. I didn't,
As long as they meet our sign ordinance, shouldn't it be okay?
Well, our sign ordinance allows one per business. And so if you have multiple food trucks on one lot, and I don't know what that
But if
means.
they have a
But they
business
each have their
license, each
business
one
license.
would have their own business license, so that would apply to the,
Well, I think, help me, Corey, I think it even excludes, like, the food truck that's on back on Crown Suites, she wasn't supposed to have one. Because Crown Suites, I guess, had their own.
I'm not as familiar with that one, but I
It's
will
one
also
per
bring up that,
It might say, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna bring up that the historic district
Yeah.
is a big part of that too.
Yeah.
They allow one, I can actually pull
See
it
if
up
it
here.
says
if I can
anything
find
about
it.
being a brick and mortar business. It might be one sign per, brick and mortar business.
I think that is what
I
it
think
is.
that was the intention, at least if that's how it says, I think that's at least the intent.
There
And
again,
there has
too,
to be
those
5
signs
feet
can't be,
ADA.
by our ordinance on sidewalks,
right.
can't be in that 5-foot ADA. And we're having that happen, so.
Mm-hmm.
Say if you got 6 food trucks, and of course, they couldn't be on the public sidewalk, but in their parking lot.
Yeah, then
That
that's
would be
fine.
fine for each one of them to have their own little, as long as it's not a trip hazard or blocking.
Complaining about it when we first got in.
That was one of my,
How about signs shall
Question.
comply with the city of Hermann sign ordinance?
There you go.
There.
But then if there's something historic, I guess we have to go by that too.
I'm gonna verify that real quick. This computer's really slow. It takes me a minute to get around on it.
Blame it on the computer.
I don't think there's anything.
Okay, so the only thing that we don't have covered is the fee, correct?
I thought we just decided that it was gonna match,
With a business license.
whatever
Okay,
the
I
license
just-
was.
Okay.
That way, if we raise or lower the business license, that permit would raise or lower accordingly. And
That's fine.
Another
I just
big
want
gallon.
a clarification. Okay, any other questions, discussion?
Next meeting?
You good, Dave?
Yep.
All right.
I guess one question is when you want to take a vote on this? You think we're ready if these are made by next meeting?
15 minutes.
Assuming that it's still going to require 2 votes, and so it's really not going to pass until the second meeting of May. Would you think that's enough time to?
Could we do them both at one time? Like
Well, we
did
can
somebody
read it twice. I mean, we have that option. It's just,
Sure.
I have the sandwich board here. One sandwich board is allowed for a business, no permit for a sign is required. They shall comply with the following. They can't exceed 10 square feet per side, shall not exceed 2 by 5 feet. Must be of a finished appearance, no rough cut plywood. Shall be located on the same lot of the building of the business. This is in the historic district, by the way. The sign shall be located such that it does not interfere with pedestrian or vehicular traffic. The placement of the sign shall allow for the sidewalk width required by the Americans with Disabilities Act to be maintained. All sandwich board signs shall be removed at the end of business day. Any person or entity erecting a sandwich board sign shall indemnify Hermann and its officers, agents, and employees from any claim arising out of the presence of the sign on city property or rights of way.
Can I ask one clarifying question?
yes, sir?
I know we talked about it, the festival permit, so they have a business license and they have a food truck permit, they still need the festival permits, they need 3 permits to operate. 3.
Because it's the vendor permit, which Dave was clarifying for us, is really more about where it's located.
But that's it.
But they don't need a business license if they're just doing
Correct.
the
So they-
festival, right?
If they're just doing just the festival, they need the conditional use permit and the vendor application. But if they have a business license, and the food truck
They already
permit, which
have a
outlines where they're going to be, it wouldn't get third.
Nothing excludes the vendor space permit, because that's subject to festivals only, and that's more for the, like you said, the organizers, the space itself and the planning of where that's all gonna be.
And all businesses do it, like Red Barn has a business, but then they do it in other places.
And we have done every,
Does Mike Sloan's trailer have a separate permit for outside, and he has his little food trailer?
his is on private property, so.
Ours is as well. Our
It's on his own property.
Ours is
On his
their
own property. I would have to double check.
Do you issue vendor space permits for private property and public property?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he does it,
Yeah.
yeah, he has them, he has them on his back parking lot.
When he,
Yeah.
if it's not his, yes,
It's
but
like people
if
would-
it's his own and he's doing it, then he wouldn't have to have one because it's his own property. Because he
But when
doesn't
he has,
fill out
when he
a,
has like other people come and use it.
when he has other people
yeah.
come in and use it, yes, they
Thank
have
you.
Well,
to
they
have
have
one.
a business license or a food truck permit specifically. Well, they can't, they don't.
Right, we don't have anything, right, yeah. No, if somebody comes in, say like, the Boy Scouts come in and they wanna do some food on his parking lot in the back, then they have to fill out the festival event application for private property and have his, permission, thank you, and, then they have to pay the $10 for the vendor space permit.
Which makes sense, except that now there's a new business license and food truck permit that would be up for a year, it's good for a year, which I would think includes October and May, my best, unless I'm wrong.
Your vendor, every time there's a festival, you would pay the $10, no
Mhm.
matter who
Yeah,
you
pay
are.
for My Fest and Oktoberfest, yeah.
All restaurants and
Yeah, everybody.
Okay? All right, that's a wrap. We'll move on to,
So that I'm clear, what was the intention of the board for this, for the next meeting, for to read it the first time, or to do just another discussion only?
Read it.
Read it.
Okay,
read it.
very good.
I second that.
Are
Are you guys okay with that?
Okay, under new business, discuss occupancy inspections and permit.
I brought this up. This is something that I've been looking at for a while. Other towns have applications for home occupancy inspections. So if you're buying a home or renting a home, there's an application that has to be filled out. And it's a safety thing. It's smoke detectors, exhaust fans, electrical outlets that are GFCI? GFI. To have those. Owensville has them, New Haven has them, other towns have them. I think we need them to help keep our citizens safe. And they also have them for commercial occupancy. And I have to give kudos out to like Market Street. There were some buildings that were there that were in horrible shape that were being rented out. And then when they were bought and taken over, they're beautiful, productive, wonderful things. So I think commercial occupancy and home occupation rental occupancy, but we need that.
Discussion?
I personally think it's a great idea. In other communities, doesn't the fire department typically handle these inspections before the sale can be completed?
This is building, like this one's building inspector, but I guess it could be code enforcement too, because this one says code enforcement. This is Owensville, New Haven
Fire
has it.
department here would not have anything to do with it. Now if you're in the tax-supported district, then they possibly would have what they call a fire marshal. Then the fire marshal would come in and do inspections and so forth, and also on commercial buildings. If you're a paid department, you go annually to inspect your restaurant and check and make sure extinguishers are full. But Hermann is a volunteer department, and there's nobody in that position, and there won't be, so.
I wasn't suggesting that our volunteer fire.
No, I'm just,
department would do
just trying to
that.
explain to you, so
Okay.
you know what.
Thanks. This is not a bad idea at all, because I do know there is some rental properties that's not up to par, but what we do for our guest houses and our B&B homes is very similar to this. Could we not use that same format that we have in place now? They check for the GFI, they check for the breaker panels, the smoke detectors, the carbon monoxide.
I was thinking we could model it along what these other towns our size have. I mean, in a home, they're not gonna have lit up exit signs or have to have a fire extinguisher. I mean, you do have to have a carbon monoxide and fire detectors, but you don't have to have a fire extinguisher.
Well, you should have a fire extinguisher. Residential or business or what, you need a fire extinguisher. Which is in the guest house one too. But something else added on to this, I touched on it a year to 2 years ago, is I looked at this, thought it was something else until I read through them, occupancy. That's, to me, occupancy is how many people can fit into a room. Where this deals with more structural, building inspector could do them, or the code enforcement officer. But occupancy needs to come into play also. And that's covered in the International Fire Code and the International Building Code that the city adopted, so we have those actually in our ordinances. But I think it's a good idea, we should look into it.
So this would be every time a home goes up for sale or rent?
Or rented.
This seems like a massive undertaking.
Every other town does it, and it's for safety.
I'd like to know how Owensville and New Haven, I would assume we'd have to hire another person to accomplish this at least.
Their building inspector does it in Owensville, and their building inspector does it in,
Do they have full-time building inspectors or part-time?
it was Lee Regal.
So I did talk to our building inspector, which we, our new building inspector, which we share with New Haven. New Haven does already have this occupancy permit, and so Michael said, the first year, of course, would be the most difficult, because that's when first time properties change hands and they have to have an inspection, which maybe they'll need to do a lot of things possibly to be compliant. But after that, he said these usually take him about only about 20 minutes for a residential, but several hours. I think he said 4 hours for, I'm not sure why, but he said 4 hours for commercial.
Maybe if it's a big business.
Yeah, maybe so. We can obviously have a more in-depth conversation with him about if this is something that he could absorb into his duties, or if that's, not potential to happen with the hours that he has for us. I did get a couple of our questions answered though. So we were talking about a lot of these older homes that still have the, help me, the tube in, what's it called?
Ball and knob. Yeah, ball and knob.
Okay.
There you go. Insufficient wiring.
Yes, he said that, because we were discussing that about, what a task that would be and an expense for a potential new homeowner. And he said that not all of those have to be, it's not that they have to be upgraded. It's not that those aren't allowed anymore. He's going and he's looking to see if it's safe. It can be old and the wiring still be safe. But there may be instances where those do need to be upgraded. So he was just saying it's not just across the board. If you have the old tube in wire, whatever you guys were saying, doesn't necessarily mean it has to be completely. Do you agree with that? Ideally, you would like it upgraded, wouldn't you?
I'm not the inspector.
So anyway, that's up for further discussion. We might get Jesse and Michael together. The other question we had was about homes when they sell, who would be responsible for when does the inspection happen? When somebody's trying to sell it or when somebody's trying to buy it? And Michael said the way they do it in New Haven is that it is the seller when he goes in to do an inspection. He said the way that New Haven has gotten around dealing with people who either can't afford to, bring maybe their house up to code before they sell it, is to work with the real estate agent and do something in the contract about as-is condition, and that they have like 90 days to become compliant with the city's occupancy. You don't like that? Okay, so those are a couple things then to
Just
consider.
put in the contract that the buyer has to pay for what any and all, or that they'll adjust the price or something like that. It's not that the seller has to come up with $5,000 to make all the fixes before they can market it for sale. It's they find a buyer and then they can negotiate the contract and put in there the, adjust the price or something like that. And my understanding of the way it happens in other towns is that the buyer eventually calls City Hall to get utilities switched over and things of that nature. That's how you know that it's changed hands. And that's when you go over and on the checklist and see if they've been issued their occupancy permit yet.
Yeah, those are all things to be sorted out.
And, houses change hands every 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. But an issue is, it's not an issue, but keep in mind landlords who have new tenants in and out of there every year, or they get bad tenants, they're in there, out of there in 4 months, and then they just keep rolling them over and over and over. And so
And it's,
Well, I guess if they get it inspected the first couple times, then it should be up to par.
I've been through both situations where I bought a home, I hired my own home inspector to come in. And then when I sold the home, they did, and yeah, I had a mistake when I had the electrician put a junction box in, he didn't put a cover on, $5 part. But I've done both where as a buyer, I paid for the home inspection, which covers all of this, plus a little bit more. And then also it's been on the other side, they paid for it when being a seller, so. 6 one, half dozen the other, and like Dave alluded to, make this application out, then it's up to, and I tell you what, I need a whole new wiring done to this house, it's gonna cost me $10,000, you're asking $140,000, so I'll shoot you a price of $130,000.
Okay, so I guess my question, just from the utility standpoint, why would the city want to open itself up to this? I guess maybe for rental properties, I can see it. I still don't know exactly. When you're talking home purchases, right now, and this is just the way I think, if I want a home inspection, I will pay for a home inspection and have a home inspected. And if my home inspector says X, Y, Z needs to be done, I will take care of that. If we have a city employee inspect these homes and say X, Y, Z needs done, that's great, unless W needed done too. And something happens, what have we just done to ourselves? You're gonna have somebody that really knows their stuff. That's just my opinion. If you put yourself in this position, I mean, to where we're the responsible party for making sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be in 150-year-old buildings, that could get extremely cumbersome. That's all I'm gonna say.
And on top of that, how would you regulate that? And if you were to find issues, I see trouble enforcing this as well.
I see troubles with safety. I don't want somebody to die from carbon monoxide poisoning, or 5 little kids in one bedroom and the house catches on fire and those kids die, or some old lady falls down steps on a porch and breaks her leg or breaks her hip, and then she dies a year later from complications because she broke her hip. I think we need to be modern and up to date like other towns are and do things the right way that are safe. I mean, we have a lot of, and I'm not cutting people down, but there are some crummy places to live around here. And would you want to live in them? And if you can buy the property, you should be able to take care of it.
I know that a friend of mine works in a lot bigger city, Atlanta, Georgia, outside Atlanta. He is a home inspector. Now he'll put his 15-page report together he does, but he's getting $600 and $700 per inspection. I mean, he's booked up, so. I see what Jesse's saying, if the city wants to take this responsibility, the liability may come along with it, is if I said that was fine, then all of a sudden it was not fine, well, who inspected it? Well, Jim Shermer did. So now, I'm a city, I did it on behalf of the city.
Well, let's look at Owensville's working smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, cover plates, stairs and floor in good condition with no holes, no frayed or buried wires, all visible wiring must be properly installed. Electric circuit panel is accessible without obstructions. We bought a house and the electric panel wasn't hooked up right. I mean, there are things like that that need to be done right. Or you buy a house and the first time you take a shower, water comes through the pipe because the pipe wasn't put in right. And I've been in homes and other jobs that I've had where you go in their trailer and they've got plywood down because the floor has holes in it. That's not right. Little kids shouldn't have to live like that, and older people shouldn't do that.
If we do an inspection, that's it, it's not a full dedicated home inspection.
And it's a checklist.
It's a
home
checklist that we
It's
could do
not
and say,
an
this is
inspection.
what we see, but here's a list of home inspectors in the area. Feel free to contact one of them.
I was looking through the difference between the New Haven and the Owensville inspection, and there's not a one-size-fits-all. You know, I agree with Susan that there should be basic safety in place,
Screens on windows, I mean.
you know, before property can change hands.
I did notice, of course, it's me, but like Owensville, I kind of glanced through this. Some of the things they have in there, like section D, emergency escape and rescue, their numbers they got here doesn't even meet the International Building Code and the Fire Code numbers. So we'd have to refer to those if we want to get in the measurements of the width of the windows, not more than 41 inches off the floor, 2 points of egress.
Yeah, these are not that.
But that is, yeah, but if they got one
An
code,
openable window if it's a sleeping room, I mean, yeah.
but they should at least follow the International Building and Fire Codes. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, but the problem you're gonna have with our community here, the fire safety codes and all that are great, but with these historic buildings and egress out of those buildings, you can't meet those codes on some of these buildings. There's no way. They'd have to change the structure. I mean, so to get down to brass tacks and enforce it to a T, not every structure, but yeah.
How do the other towns do it then? How does Owensville?
I don't know, I'm just saying, being a firefighter all my life, I'm just saying there's things that are written there, but when you get into a historic home or an older home, 100 years old, they weren't built the way the fire code is written today. So you're gonna have issues with those. How do you enforce that then? You can't make this guy spend $20,000 to take a wall out so he can have another egress out of the basement. I mean,
This just says.
new construction, yes.
Because a lot of our houses were built back in the 30s and 40s and maybe before that, and typical bedroom is 12 by 12. By the fire code, 2 people only, but I know we got multiple regular sized beds in there.
I think maybe I mean, I'm not against the idea, don't take me wrong, but I think maybe our building inspector, get in depth with him a little bit more of what he really does with New Haven, so we know. You understand where I'm going with that?
He said he'd be more than willing to come to a meeting and discuss. He was saying that his inspection does not get anywhere near the level of like a home inspector, like when you sell. That he really is just looking for some basic safety things.
What does New Haven do if the people don't meet his requirements?
We can ask him.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of things that we
Yeah.
need to.
Yeah. I think it's like Bruce said, I think we need to have Mike kind of look at, get his input since he is our building inspector.
Yeah, I think that's the first step in that direction, and then go from there.
I knew though there's older homes out here that looks pretty bad, but I've seen some that are newer construction that they're not been upkept either. So, yeah, it's something I think we should look at.
Would you like him to come to the next meeting?
If he has time to research it and put
Well,
some thoughts together.
I'm sure he's presently doing this in New Haven, so and he's a new building inspector, but that's the experience that he has.
Right.
Is New Haven the last 3 months.
Why don't we give him a month? And not come next time, but maybe the time after, so he's got time to really think about it.
We'll do that.
If you could apply that to Hermann, or some form of.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else on that? If not, any other new business?
Me again, sorry. I'd like to thank the Arts Council. I've been their liaison for the Board of Aldermen. And in the last 2 years, they've really stepped up and are doing things to try and make Hermann a more enjoyable place to be in for us too as citizens, with the art walks and all of the things they do with music and art in Hermann. I think we all need to thank them for everything they do for us. And the tree commission is doing a wonderful job too. I got the honor of taking Bruce's place and going and meeting with the 4th graders and seeing their excitement and the things they knew about trees that I didn't know. I think that's great.
It is fun, isn't it, with the kids?
It was so much fun, I loved it. And then the Lewis and Clark sign down at the riverfront has been redone, and we can thank Clark Answer for that because he noticed it and brought it to my attention. And then he went to the DNR and the Deutschheim helped, and they installed a new sign. And we were lucky that it didn't cost us anything in the city to get that sign done. So if anybody wants to go and look at the new sign and read more about Lewis and Clark, go down to the riverfront and get an ice cream cone or something and enjoy yourself down there.
Okay, thank you. Any other new business? If not, we'll move on to motions. Do I have a motion to approve the last minutes?
So moved.
Motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
So carried. Invoices for payment.
Move and pay the bills.
I'll second.
You just filled that spot really
You know, when I'm
good.
sitting in the chair, it's just comes.
Motion's been made to pay the bills, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Okay, employee health insurance renewal. Did you want to talk about that?
Sure, it's, our broker was really excited to present, our renewal to us because it was only 4%. And anything under 10 is a win, and so we, our same plan at only a 4% increase. The year before was 5, and the year before that was 10, so, our recommendation is to renew it.
I move to renew the health insurance.
Motion's been made to renew, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Approved bid for the manholes from CJ Products for the sewer extension project. Any questions? If not, I have a
Motion to
motion.
approve.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Declare property for surplus for auction. Any questions? If not, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Hire lifeguards for the 2022 pool season.
I move to approve the hiring of the lifeguards.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Special event application for Carl Bond's Hermann City Band Summer Concerts Amphitheater, May 29th, July 3rd, August 7th, 2022.
I move to approve.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Special event application, Herman Nimble Thimble Quilt Club, Herman Quilt Show, City Park Rotunda, September 9th, 10th, 2022.
I move to approve.
Motion's been made to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Special event application, Herman Area District Hospital, fundraising concert amphitheater, September 10th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Special event application, Herman J.C.'s My Fest Beer Garden, Sesquicentennial Park, May 20th and 21st, 2022.
I move to approve.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Festival event application, Herman J.C.'s October Beer Garden, Sesquicentennial Park, September 30th, October 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th, and 30th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Motion's been made. Second.
Second.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Special event application for the Herman Arts Council, First Friday Art Walk, various downtown sidewalks, May 6th, June 3rd, July 1st, August 5th, September 2nd, and October 7th, 2022. Motion.
I move to approve.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mayor Fox?
Oh, excuse me.
Can you entertain a motion to appoint Susan Langer as the liaison to the park board and Ash Shears as the liaison to the arts council?
Need that in a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, right?
Aye.
So carried.
Oh, right. Our gas commission appointees.
I don't have that ready.
Never mind.
Is it in that resolution? I didn't bring it.
Okay.
Next time. Thank you.
Next time. Okay, now do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you everyone for coming and watching on TV.
I just did it at the same time you did that resolution.
It just popped in.
Yeah.